You can bond him out if you need to.
You're loitering?
It is loitering.
I literally paid for her.
Wait a minute, you're around here. It's not business.
The title of the video is Stupid Female Cop Beats Up Wrong Suspects. I am your host, Joe Volta.
David stood outside the nail salon, waiting patiently for his girlfriend, Alice. She had decided to go in for a quick manicure, leaving David with his thoughts and his phone to keep him busy. He absentmindedly scrolled through his social media feed, not expecting anything out of the ordinary. As he continued swiping through pictures and updates, David saw two police officers walking towards him. He felt confused and couldn't understand why they were coming his way. He hurriedly put his phone in his pocket and tried to gather himself, uncertain about what was going to happen next. To his shock and disbelief, the officers approached David and suddenly placed him under arrest. The feeling of handcuffs tightening around his wrists filled him with anxiety. He struggled to make sense of the situation, desperately searching for any possible reason they could have for taking him into custody. As the female officer began to read him his rights, David's mind raced to comprehend the unjust predicament he found himself in. Despite his fear and confusion, David tried to stay calm and cooperate with the officers as they led him toward the awaiting police car.
No, she was still in
He'll be at the county spot jail. You can bond him out if you need to.
Play about food.
That's enough.
The female officer remained stern, her tone firm and detached as she explained, "You're being arrested for loitering, sir. It's against the law." David's bewilderment deepened. How could simply waiting outside a business be considered a crime? He struggled to find a reasonable explanation for the officer's accusation. After all, he had just paid for Alice's nails. Technically, he was a customer. How could merely being near the establishment be seen as loitering?
You're loitering?
It is loitering.
If I literally paid for her.
Wait a minute, you're around here. It's not business. Around everybody's business. How is that loitering?
As the situation unfolded, David found himself growing more and more confused. His mind was flooded with questions and doubts. He'd always believed in following the law, and this sudden accusation made him feel vulnerable and singled out. It was hard to comprehend how simply waiting for his girlfriend could lead to his arrest. He attempted to reason with the officers, explaining that he was just waiting for Alice, who was still inside the salon. However, the female officer insisted that he was loitering, referring to a law that defined the offense as being in a place, time, or manner that deviated from what a law-abiding person would typically do and caused reasonable concern for others' safety.
The female officer insisted he was loitering and then cites the law. Okay, that's fine. In a place, time, or manner that deviated from what law-abiding person would typically do. He just said and told them that he was there and paid for his girlfriend's nails. So he was a customer, a patron of that business. So if you're just standing outside, say you go and buy something from CVS and you're standing there and you buy a new pack of cigarettes and you light it up and you're smoking it out front. That's not loitering, okay? Because you are a customer and you just so happen to have a couple of minutes between the time that you left the store to where you get into your car. You can't be charged with loitering for something like that, all right? And then it goes on to state that deviated from what a law-abiding person would typically do and cause reasonable concern for other safety. So a dude just standing outside of a store with a Pabst Blue Ribbon hat and some random, albeit ugly t-shirt, right, doesn't make that a typical deviation from what a law-abiding citizen would do.
Feeling frustrated but determined to prove his innocence, David continued to engage with the officers. He stressed that he had paid for Alice's nail appointment and even offered his card as evidence of his involvement with the salon.
I appreciate you helping.
All right, I'll go work.
I actually do appreciate
I'll give him.
I know what it is.
It's actually sick, and you can lean up at my mouth. Behind it.
Later on, all right. Hey, my name is David, honestly. It's my real name. Thank you.
Despite David's earnest attempts to defend himself, the situation escalated, and he found himself facing the unsettling prospect of being taken to the College Park jail. Alice was taken aback when she emerged from the salon and discovered David's absence. She immediately approached the officers, seeking an explanation for his sudden disappearance. They informed her that David had been arrested for loitering. Alice was furious. She firmly believed in David's innocence and couldn't comprehend why he had been apprehended. She promptly called their friend, JJ, and urgently requested assistance in bailing David out of jail. JJ was taken aback by the news and offered his immediate support. Unfortunately, they did not have sufficient cash on hand to cover the bail amount, creating a frustrating predicament. They would have to wait until Monday for their court hearing and pay the bill then. David seethed with anger, unable to fathom why he was being punished for wrongdoing he had not committed.
So when you get detained, if it's on like a weekend or something, you don't have money to bail out immediately, You're gonna have to sit there the whole weekend. That would be horrible.
As they waited in jail, David and Alice discussed their options. They decided to press charges against the female officer who had arrested David, firmly convinced that she held a personal grudge against him and was abusing her authority to make his life difficult.
When the cops or a government actor treats you in a manner that you think is inappropriate, now don't all y'all go out there and start filing claims against the cops, because 99% of you probably deserved whatever it is they did. And mostly the cops all generally act pretty well, right? But there are bad apples that ruin the whole bunch. And if a cop does something to you that you feel like this situation here on this video that's inappropriate, you can go and you can log complaints with the appropriate authorities at the police station.
Monday arrived. David and Alice appeared in court. The judge attentively listened to their account of the events and ultimately dismissed the charges against David.
He got his charges dismissed, right? That's one of the reasons why I always tell people in videos like this, when dealing with the cops, to remain calm and don't give them extra ammo. While this guy, he was under arrest, he was detained, he did speak to the cops, but he didn't say anything incriminating. So, that can go, you can take that how you want, right? But it's always best to assert your right to remain silent. Don't speak. Here, this guy, he said some stuff, but he was super polite. He didn't do anything to, attack the police, thereby getting another charge for assaulting an officer. All right. He wasn't cursing. He wasn't, doing things that could lead to getting other charges thrown on him. And as you just saw, right, the judge threw out the loitering charges.
Responsible for his arrest faced reprimand and was instructed to undergo additional training. Although the story was shocking, the officer responded, "Have you ever been arrested based on a coin toss?" If you don't understand, don't worry. We were also shocked at first, but wait till you hear this one. Number 2, the shocking truth behind an unfair coin toss. A woman named Sarah Webb was driving to her work when Roswell police officer Courtney Brown pulled her over. Brown told Webb that she was speeding, to which Webb apologized and said that she was late for work.
I mean, you know how fast you were just going, ma'am? I'm so sorry. I'm late for work.
Never, ever say that. When the police ask you how fast you were going, you need to write this down. This is gold. This is how you go about it. You say, "I thought I was going the speed limit." Now, the reason you say it like that is because you're not admitting to any crimes and you're also not lying. Make the police tell you how fast you were going.
So you could go over 80 miles per hour on 92? No, ma'am.
After getting Webb's ID, Officer Brown then returned to her car where she ran her records. This is when things become shady. As Brown returned to her car, she asked her fellow cop, Officer Christy Wilson, what to do. Because, get this, Brown hadn't even checked Webb's car speed before pulling her over.
I'm gonna take her probably for reckless. She flew past me going probably 80, 85 on 92 in the wet road. She said she's running late for work. I had to get up to 90 to catch her.
This cop has no evidence that the lady was speeding. And again, this is another reason why you need to keep your mouth fucking shut. Unlike what that girl did, right? Because she kind of admits to speeding, but this cop is being a dirtbag and she has no evidence.
Officer Wilson asked what she was going to do. Seeing Brown was uncertain, after thinking for a couple of minutes, Brown came up with an idea. She took her phone out and opened the flip coin app. As she didn't know the reason to pull Webb over, Brown let the flip coin app decide what to do with Webb's fate.
Stop.
While both officers were discussing and giggling, Officer Wilson suggested that heads should be arrested and tails should be released.
I didn't even know there was an app to flip a coin. That's fucking stupid. We don't have coins to flip, right? And second off, the fact that these dumbass cops not only are fabricating evidence to arrest or charge this poor chick for being late to work, right?
This is tailed right. Yeah, so really, 23.
23 is code in police language, which means arrest. While joking and laughing, Brown wrote arrested for reckless driving on the report. She then handcuffed and arrested Webb, who took the arrest as a shock and started crying. 2 months after the incident, the Roswell PD released Brown's body cam footage, which was met with nationwide outrage. Many criticized the officer's conduct, calling them unprofessional and not serious in a highly staked position. When asked how she felt after knowing that her fate was being determined by a flip coin app, Webb said,
I was very angry and upset. It just hurt to know that, these people are supposed to be looking out for you.
Exactly.
After the release of the video, prosecutors dropped all charges against Webb, who'd been asking for the body cam footage for months. As it turned out, the whole department knew about the incident, and many were said to have been upset, but no one bothered to inform Webb. Following the release of the footage, an investigation was started into the conduct of Officer Brown and Officer Wilson, who were attending field training classes. I wonder what kind of training they would give to young Roswell police officers. Thankfully, they didn't get the opportunity. After the conclusion of the investigation, Officer Brown and Officer Wilson were both fired for their reckless behavior. Commenting on the incident, Roswell Police Chief Rusty Grant said that both officers had engaged in conduct on or off duty which adversely affects the efficiency of the department and has a tendency to destroy public respect for the employee or the department. Although both cops...
All right, so whenever PR firm wrote that for that cop, or if he thought of it himself, kudos to him. That's well written.
Got what they deserved for their actions. There's still an important question to answer. How many civilians had been arrested in the past just because a coin showed tails, but then a police officer changed their mind, inspiring a renewed focus on reforming law enforcement practices? Although Officer Sherrill was charged, this next police officer took the matter too far. Number 3, a close call on a highway. In September 2022, in the lively streets of Cleveland Heights, Mr. Kern found himself driving alongside Officer Carly Lewis on a busy 3-lane road. As they were cruising along, Officer Lewis noticed a vehicle in front of Mr. Kern with expired license plates. This prompted her to make the decision to pull over the vehicle. Unfortunately, there is no available video footage of what happened next, but Mr. Kern claims that Officer Lewis suddenly swerved into his lane to initiate the traffic stop. This maneuver caught him off guard, cutting him off and forcing him to hit the brakes hard to avoid a collision. Naturally shaken by the close call, Mr. Kern decided to follow the vehicle with expired plates. He then parked his car behind Officer Lewis's cruiser in order to obtain her name and badge number with the intention of filing a complaint with the police department.
Another party does not know how to yield to licensed sirens, and he's sitting here recording me. Stay down, I'm going off the road. Are you okay? Yeah. Okay.
Filled with frustration and genuine concern, Mr. Kern approached Officer Lewis, his voice reflecting his emotions as he demanded her badge number. Unfortunately, Officer Lewis, feeling agitated by the encounter, decided to call for backup. She claimed that Mr. Kern had failed to yield to an emergency vehicle and was now recording her without permission.
Couple of things here. First off, that cop's wrong. You can record the police. The Supreme Court has said so. So her saying that Mr. Kern's recording her without permission, it doesn't matter. You don't need permission to record the cops. If you want to record the cops, you're allowed to record the cops. Secondly, if the cops almost run you off the road, okay, so they didn't hit your car. Sometimes you just got to chalk things up to, oh well, and move on about your life and not hold on to every little itty bitty thing, okay? This guy, he didn't crash, and he decided to follow the police because they almost crashed into him. And when the police pulled over another car, he gets out of his car to then engage the cops. All right, so there's not a more dangerous thing that the police do than traffic stops, all right? They're pulling over strangers in a high-stress situation. They don't know what's in your car, right? They're exposed on the side of the road. You could start shooting, hail a gunfire, whatever. So it's already a high-stress situation to go up to the car that the cops want to pull over. And then for this clown, albeit I understand where he's coming from, but I just would never do something like this because it makes no sense, right? Just make fun of it to your friends later. This clown decides it's a good idea to approach the cop while she's engaged in a traffic stop. That is not smart. Don't do that.
In reality, Mr. Kern had recently purchased his vehicle and had only received the title for it the day before. His intentions were simply to obtain Officer Lewis's badge number, as he believed he had been involved in a near miss due to her sudden lane change.
That's out with the confrontation. I apologize. You almost ruined the accident. I initiated my license siren. What, you raised your music on? Because I had the license siren on, sir.
After Officer Lewis finished questioning the driver of the stopped vehicle, she approached Mr. Kern once again and apologized, acknowledging that no crime had been committed. Sergeant Wolf arrived at the scene to assess the situation and engage in a conversation with Mr. Kern. However, despite Officer Lewis admitting her mistake and offering an apology, the situation quickly escalated.
This is why you don't do what Mr. Kern did. I mean, he got an apology. I don't know what more he wants from the cop, right? But you can't mess with a frat with guns, okay? I mean, certain things, I'm not saying the government should be able to do whatever they want to you. But what I'm saying is think logically about what it is you have to gain versus what it is you stand to lose. Your life, your freedom, dealing with this nonsense and getting charged with bullshit charges, then you got to take time off work. You got to go to court. You got to hire a lawyer. You got to fight the case. Even if you win, great, makes a good Instagram story. But Who cares, right? He doesn't need to put himself in this position. He got a sorry from the lady. He could have just rolled out. Was he going to report to her sergeant or whomever at the cop station, like, oh, this cop turned their lights on and almost crashed into me? You're not going to get nothing out of that. It's a waste of your time.
Real quick, I just wanted to say that Attorney Tom / Attorney Reacts content is now on Spotify. We just launched a partnered show, link in the description. Go check it out. Now, back to the video.
Sergeant Wolf requested Mr. Kern's identification, emphasizing the importance of having it to inform the dispatcher about the person involved. Mr. Kern, feeling uncertain about the situation, questioned whether he was being detained. In response, Sergeant Wolf issued a warning of potential arrest if Mr. Kern refused to provide his identification. This exchange caused confusion and tension to escalate, leading to more officers being called to the scene.
Listen, talk to me. Just do me a favor. All I'm asking you is just take your hands out of your pocket while we're talking, okay? Okay, I call for backup, all right?
Mr. Kern refused to back down, asserting his rights and stating that he had no legal obligation to identify himself since Officer Lewis's actions didn't justify a traffic stop. However, Sergeant Wolf persisted, citing Mr. Kern for obstruction and calling for backup. During the escalating confrontation, Officer Lewis reluctantly issued Mr. Kern a citation for obstruction while expressing her objections to her superior. Mr. Kern, frustrated and in pain from the shoulder injury sustained during the incident, requested an ambulance but declined due to concerns about his vehicle being towed. Days later, the prosecutor dismissed the case against Mr. Kern due to insufficient evidence, revealing that no crime had occurred and raising doubts about his guilt.
If the cops can't articulate a reasonable suspicion that you've committed a crime, just know you don't have to give them your ID. So that's what we got for you guys today. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notifications. And again, I'm your host, Joe Volta at High Voltage Law. Follow me on all the socials, and we will see you next time on Attorney Reacts.
Big verdict.